Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of a Wannabes podcast. Now, I just want to say, I just want to say, disclaimer right now, it's going to be more of a sensitive thing. We talk about a lot of sensitive things on this podcast, so, if you've been in here, you've probably already known that. If you've listened to any of it, you probably already know we like to address sensitive topics. But this one's going to be about religion. We both have very strong opinions about religion, but we'll try to share why we believe our opinions, and I hope you don't get any offended, but if you do, we don't intend for that. We're just trying to share our opinions, and we hope that you can enjoy it. And we'll be on SoundCloud and SoundCloud and YouTube. And if you're on YouTube or SoundCloud, you could leave it in the comments, and I'll reply. We'll tell you how we feel about it, and you can tell us how you feel.
For if you're gonna comment down on YouTube or SoundCloud, we'll
see. It's hard.
Yeah, we'll have a discussion with you in the comments. So feel free to give us your opinions. We'll respect your opinions if you respect ours.
Mm-hmm. So we have very different upbringings just in general, and we've talked about that before. But with religion, it was very different too, and that's just. I mean, I'm the oldest child in my family, and he's the youngest child. We just have very different lives, and yet we. Opposites attract. We're yin and he's the yin to my yang.
Oh my god, that was extremely homosexual, but I loved it.
Nope. So, let me see. Okay, first, one thing I don't like, and I just want to put it out here now, is I don't like the word religious, and I don't like a lot of the things associated with religion or with Christianity, because I'm a Christian myself, and Tyler, I think you say you're a Christian too,
I'm
right?
a Christian. Yes.
Yeah.
I would say I'm self-practicing Christian, is what I would say.
Well, yeah, I say I'm non-denominational, and then that's another thing I wanted to get into. I don't like the word religious, and I think a lot of Christians nowadays, and I think it's all about what you mean in your heart and where you're trying to go with it, but I think it's, because if I'm just trying to figure out how I want to word this. Like, intentions is what matters the most, I think. I always like to think and say this is, if you don't judge a book by its cover, but that also includes like your actions and your personal, like the way you look. Like it's not just the way you look, it's your actions too, because nobody knows what you're thinking or what you're feeling. So I really think that we should have compassion for every single person, because we all make decisions based on the way we're feeling, the way we're thinking. And if I was in your shoes when you made that bad decision, who's to say I wouldn't make that, because I don't know what you.
Yeah,
exactly. So like. I forgot where I was going with that.
Before you dive in, I have a question for you.
What's up?
You say you don't like the word religious, but like, why is that? Because I'm the opposite. I like the word religious, and I'll tell you why, but I want to know why you don't like that word.
I don't like the association with it. Like, and I don't like the association with a lot of religious words, unfortunately, because I feel like as soon as you bring up a word, you're like, to somebody that might have had a bad upbringing.
It's like you're like, oh, he's religious. Like it's almost like being like, oh, I'm religious. It makes people who aren't religious look at you different. Is that what you mean?
They already have like some thought about you. If I say I'm a Christian, if I say, hey, do you want to come to my house and read the Bible? Nobody's going to be like, yeah, sure. They're going to be like, they're going to be having their own idea of what the Bible is, and they're like, oh no, that's going to be awful. I don't want to do that. Most people just aren't open in that way, and they already have preconceived interpretations, Yeah, so I really don't like the idea of that, and it's really hard to share it, especially because I feel like there's a lot of arguments and fighting, like not only between all human beings, but like within Christians as well. Like we're not doing a good job of banding together,
Yeah.
So it's really hard to keep a general statement when you've got all these like radical Christians over here saying you need to read your Bible and you're going to hell if you do this, and then you've got the other people that's like, hey, just believe in God, and it's like there's got to be some middle ground, and it's just all over the place, and I really hate it. Like, I genuinely hate that.
That's why I like the word religious, because I feel like, we have all these different religions, even in just Christianity. Like, there's Protestant, Catholics, and there's all these
thousand that came out of it. Yeah,
I feel like if we all could just unite under the word religious, that would make everything good, because if you think about it, like a lot of religions are the same. You know what I mean? Like a lot of similar beliefs, maybe different names for the people. And even some people can say that Scientology is a religion. You know what I mean? All. So I think if we just say, oh, I'm religious, if everyone can say, somebody who believes in Buddhism can say I'm religious, and I can say I'm religious too. I believe in Christian. You know what I mean? We should all unite under the same thing instead of. I think a big issue nowadays is we always sectionalize us off from each other. Okay, that person's Christian, while that person's Buddhist. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Let's all just unite under one thing. We're religious.
Especially within Christianity as well. And that's something I even wrote about, denominations and stuff. Like, people say, I believe in this, so I'm going to stand over here. Like, I'm a Catholic, I'm going to stand over. I'm a Mormon, I'm going to stand over here. I believe this part of the Bible is true, so I'm going to stand over here. Well, I believe that it means this. And it's all because the whole Bible is just interpretation and context, and people take it out of context and try to put
Especially
it in context.
Back in the day.
And it's all over the place. Back in the day, because the Catholic Church and a lot of people that when it was in Latin, the only people that could read it were the Catholic Church, the people in charge.
Yeah, and who knows how many of those people were corrupt? You know what I mean? How many of those?
A lot of them were.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think today in religion, even though it seems like we're farther apart than ever, I feel like we're actually a lot in a better position now because we can interpret it how we want. And I feel like that's how, whether his name was God, Buddha, whatever you want to call it, the creator, I feel like that's how he intended it, was to, he gave us his word down in the Bible. He had his people tell us his story and the stories, and he gave it to us I like to believe that he wanted us to interpret it how we felt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, because a lot of people think this part of the Bible is not as reliable. I didn't have to, but I did a research project, and I did it on the reliability of the Bible at one point, and I found out that the Old Testament is a lot more reliable because we just found the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it's word for word, and it's from thousands and thousands of years ago, and it's word for word what the Bible is today. But the New Testament is a lot more skeptical. But from a Christian standpoint, a believer standpoint, if I'm opening the Bible, I believe I'm seeing whatever God wants me to see. If I prayed and I didn't know what to do and I was asking God for an answer, and then I opened my Bible and I started reading, I believe that whatever I'm about to read is what he's trying to show me, is what he's trying to tell me. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. So and I think when you open the Bible, it's all about interpretation, context. If you're really trying to make an argument, it's about interpretation, because everyone has different interpretations, context, and what was my third one? I had a third one. Oh, shoot, Tyler. Oh my gosh.
I mean, so
translation.
Yeah.
Because there's translation arguments and about the different. I don't want to get into homosexuality, but there's people that argue that it's meant to say sexuality and not homosexuality, and there's people that argue that it's about just sexual tendencies, and just there's so many arguments about it that I don't want to go into pride parades and scream you're going to hell. Why would I do that if it's not even
the
defined?
way I see it is, how can you say yours is true if there's 50 different interpretations of what that means? You know what I mean? That's what confuses me. It's if there's 5 different, there's one text, there's 4 sentences, okay, and everyone interprets those 4 sentences a bunch of different ways. Who's to say yours is right? Who's to say mine is right? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Maybe it's not even what's right; it's how it makes me feel or what I think about it. And that's why I don't listen to what people say about it. I just believe what I believe. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, see, that's another thing. My brother, and this is kind of going off topic, but I swear it makes sense. My little brother, he always likes to say things as if they're fact. He never says I think blah 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 blah. He always says it as if it's true. He knows it's 100%. And then my dad will look it up and find out it's not true, and then he looks dumb, and we keep trying to tell him And I feel even though he's 10 years old, 11 years old, whatever, my everyone else, a lot of people are not, or just the same way,
Yeah.
I know I completely butchered that sentence, but
I know
a lot of people are the exact same as he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So many people are childish.
Yeah, it's childish. I don't even know if it's childish. It's more closed-minded. You gotta. Once you realize that everything you say isn't going to be correct, it's really easy to learn from it. You know what I mean? And that's something, and I don't even think it's just child that goes hand in hand with childish, because that's how childs act, because they don't understand that. And and as you grow up, you start to realize that it's okay to be wrong, because in order to be right, you have to be wrong first. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think, and something I was thinking about earlier today, is a big part of Christianity and a big part of parenting too, is just understanding that you're not always right. Like, you're not always
Even
like seeing
parents.
everyone around you as the exact like equals to you. You know, we're all make mistakes and we're all imperfect.
We're all human. We all
And
bleed the same blood.
yeah, exactly. So like you, as soon as you start to say I'm right and you're wrong, you're like putting yourself elevated above those people. You know what I mean?
If we're on the same plane, it's much easier to work together.
Yeah, and it's much easier to forgive. It makes life a lot easier, just in general. Okay, so growing up, I was with a pretty religious family. I didn't, come to know God and start believing in that until about middle school, 6th grade. That was around when we met, actually, but I don't think that had anything to do with it. So, I mostly grew up in church. And I didn't really know what I was talking about until we found a good, decent church that we stayed with for about 3 years right before I went into middle school. And, I joined the choir at that church. I got really involved with the people there, and I made friends and stuff like that. And so that's how I became such a strong Christian at the start, or I feel like a lot of people that first come to know God are like, that's when they're the strongest in their religion, and then it's a steady decline from there,
Okay.
And that's where it shouldn't be. Like, that's why it shouldn't be like that. And I'm not necessarily saying it's like that for me. It was like a roller coaster for me. But like,
I feel like that's how it is for everyone with religion,
Yeah, I feel like there's a big spike. Well, some people kind of gradually come into it and don't start out, both feet in.
Yeah.
Most people like to just stick their toes in at first, show up to a church every once in a while, and then they start to come out more. So that was my experience. What was your experience with church like growing up?
So, a lot is hard to remember because it was so long ago, but I know that growing up, I grew up in a Catholic church in elementary school. We'd go all the time, and I remember because it was like a not routine, but it was something that I had to go, I was forced to go to it. It made it hard. It made it hard to believe in because it was like, okay, well, if this is real, then why is it forced on me? Like, shouldn't I just know it? You know what I mean? And then we ended up stopped going to church just because everyone, like, we all grew up, we all got busy, so we stopped going. So as we stopped going, I kind of got farther away, and I wouldn't even say got farther away because I was always skeptical as a kid because of that. Well, if I'm being forced to do this, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But then I think the best way I think what happened to me is I found God on my own. I think that's how everyone needs to do it. You know what I mean? I think I found God on my own because there was a time when I needed Him, and then there He was. You know what I mean? That's probably around when I met you. And again, I don't know if you had anything to do with it. It could have just been right time. You know what I mean? But hard times then, and then hard times came good times, and good times became God. So I grew up in Catholic church, stopped going to church. A while where I just was that stubborn kid who said God's not real. Like you said, no, I'm right. He's not real. You know what I mean? And then I just really started to be like, okay, well, and my mind started to open up a little bit. Okay, well, how is this possible then? How's that possible? Well, there's no proof from it. Okay, well, if there's no proof, but there's no proof he's not real. You know what I mean? There's no proof he's real, there's no proof he's not. So it's my choice, and I choose to believe that he is because it makes so much sense to me,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
I mean, it's a little different from yours, but like you said, roller coaster up and down. I had to figure it out.
And everyone's got completely different stories about it. And there's a lot of people that I meet that they're like, in like middle school especially, we had friends that I won't name, but like I remember not really believing in God at the time, or just like believing it because that's what I was told all my life. It's like, you were told Santa Claus is real and you have no reason not to believe that. So, same thing with God until I started looking into it, and then I actually believed for myself, and it became my own relationship with God. But at the time, I remember like sitting at the lunch table, and this is my first I wrote about this in a song. It was my first cases of seeing people with depression, and they were arguing me and like, how is God real? God's definitely not real. He wasn't there for me. He's definitely not. And I know you had the same kind of arguments with those same people because we had the same group of friends.
Yeah, I know you're talking about. I know who you're talking about too.
Yeah,
I think it's I don't like that argument, and because I think about it now, it's and this people may interpret this different, but I feel like it's not that God wasn't there for you. It's that you got to be there with God. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. God knows that forcing us to be with Him is going to stress us out, just like the same way parents force kids to go to church and it freaks them out. You know what I mean? So God, I feel like God, personally, I feel like God knows, or the Creator, or whatever you want to call Him, He knows that when you're ready for Him, you'll be there with Him. You know what I mean? And sometimes that takes some people to the end of their life to need Him. You know what I mean? But He's always there waiting. That's how I feel. I feel like He's always there waiting.
Yeah,
He knows the best way, and the way to keep us closest with Him is on our own terms when we need Him. You know what I mean? Because there's some days are going to go great, and you don't need to pray to God. He knows that. He knows that you can have a great day without having Him holding your hand all the way through. You know what I mean? So he knows that when we're ready to stand with him, he'll be there waiting for us. So I don't like the argument that God wasn't there for me. Well, he wasn't there for you because you didn't want to be with him. You didn't give him a chance,
Yeah.
So,
well, okay, so I kind of disagree. I feel like God being there for, well, not really disagree, just the way you worded it, I guess.
yeah, I'm not good.
I feel like God is always there. I feel like God is always there with us. Whereas,
maybe
so
God's
people
always there for us. We just need to hold his hand. Maybe we're just not holding his hand.
Yeah. People always talk about like if God's really real, then how is this world, so imperfect? There's like diseases and these awful things, and it really makes you wonder, like, if everything was good and in this world that people
would be appreciated.
I assume wish, what would life be like? Like, would purpose, and that's where God gives us free will. I feel like those are gifts, that we have.
Yeah, like, I mean, maybe this is, I know some people understand this, if you complete a video game 100%, you don't want to play it anymore, you move on to the next game. If everything was perfect in life, that's how it would be. Everything's perfect here, I have nothing else to do, what the fuck,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
It'd be like a game of The Sims.
Yeah, what? No,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Yeah, it's like
we're like it's completely like lifeless. It's just one task after another.
Yeah, if the free will.
Everything's good. Who cares?
I never heard that before, but I like the way that you put that. With all that free will that he gives us, we're able to do what we want. If the world is perfect, it's perfect because he wanted it to be perfect, but it's not. It's the world is what we make it, and that gives life purpose because we have to make it good. You know what I mean?
I feel like this gives like it gets kind of existential here, but like I feel like the meaning of life, which people always ask, like, what's the meaning of life? The fact that God gave us choice, and in giving us choice, he did give us the ability to fail, but that I feel like that's just something that comes along with choice. And although we look at failure as a bad thing, I think that's also a gift. And the ability to choose is what gives us like purpose, because like I can say that my purpose is making music that brings people closer to God, and you can say your purpose is making films or whatever you want to say, like, or photography. Or like serving people. Like, everyone can choose their own purpose. People can say like serving my family or making money, and that's like a crazy thing about life. Like, if we took that away, what would life be like?
Communism.
Yeah, right. I think that's in the Bible.
Really? Wow, I didn't even know that.
Leviticus.
Yeah, man.
No,
I get that. I like that, actually. I'm gonna remember that.
I have something written down that I like to call the tightrope theory, which I feel like everything that has to do with believing, and like not believing, but in this context, like God and faith, it's all on a tightrope, and it can go one way or the other, but like there's no way to know until we die, right? Like, if someone said, I saw a sign, right? Like, or they said, I wanted to see a sign from God. God, if this is really what I need to do, show me a sign. And then they said, God gave me a sign, and this is what I'm going to do. How do we know that that wasn't a sign? Because people could say, that was definitely a sign. I totally see what she means. And then people could also say, like,
it's just coincidence.
Yeah, it's a coincidence. So, like, but there's no way to prove either of those things.
Exactly. So just interpret it how you will.
Exactly.
It's full circle.
Exactly.
That's back what we talked about in the beginning.
Exactly. And there's so many Christians that I feel like don't humble themselves to the point of, I believe this, and I need to show you this. This is what I believe. And they interpret that as sharing God and sharing the gospel, but in reality, you're trying to share your opinion and your interpretation. And that's a completely different thing. You're trying to share your own thing instead of trying to share God. And if you're talking to a Christian, there's no need for you to share that. You should be having a discussion, not a debate. You know what I mean?
There you go. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you should be having like you should be communicating about your different opinions and different interpretations, and they could open your eyes and you'll open theirs, because we all have different ways of thinking about things,
Yeah, and if you see your discussion is turning into a debate, then you guys just need to agree to disagree, because it's okay that some people feel strongly about their opinions. That's all right, and if they do, then understand that person's going to feel just as strongly about theirs, but don't get into an argument about it. You know what I mean? Because
exactly.
At the end of the day, it's just not even opinion. It's just the way we interpret it. So somebody's going to interpret it the ways something I like to say is not every lens is the same. Every single lens is different. So your eyes are like the lens. We're going to see things differently than somebody else's. And once you learn that that's how life is, then it's easier to accept that somebody else's opinion is theirs and not yours.
Yeah, and it's completely we're all made completely unique, and nobody thinks the same way. So like, you should find like pride in that. Like, you can be proud of that. Like, your opinion is your own opinion and nobody else's. But also, you should be humbling that. You know,
you should still be okay. You should still understand that other people have opinions too.
Yeah, exactly.
Take pride in your opinions, but take pride in someone else's too. Understand that they're going to have their own as well.
Yeah, and going back into this context interpretation thing of the Bible, there's, just for example, there's a part in the Bible that talks about how, you know, you can't have, like, tattoos and stuff. Like, that's a rule in the Bible. But from, you know, don't get me wrong, if I'm wrong here, you know, feel free to correct me, anyone in the comments. But the context for that, I believe, was that people at the time were carving into themselves to worship, like, false gods and worship idols.
Yeah.
And so it was written in there to not do that. Like, don't carve into yourself. But if I'm carving, like, or not carving, but getting a tattoo that is proclaiming my loyalness to God, like, you know, or some sort of symbolism, and then someone asks me, like, when I'm wearing a tank top, hey, what's that tattoo? And I explain it to them, and then they come to know God, like, that feels like a completely different thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's even the same thing. Like, okay, let's say, you know, I get a tattoo of Buddha, right? But it's not, okay, I'm Buddhist, that's why I have this Buddha tattoo, or I believe in Buddha. I think Buddhas are cool, and I like that, you know, their symbol is more like vibey, good vibes, you know? That's not me worshiping another god, you know? That's just me, that's using it as like a symbol, not, you know, I feel like that's the same thing, interpreting it, you know what I mean? I interpret this tattoo not as me worshiping another god, but as a symbol that I wish everyone has good vibes, you know? And you may not have seen that, but God knows that. And as long as God knows that I'm not worshiping Buddhists or whatever, you know what I mean? Then we're all straight, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and people will attack you for that kind of thing, which really sucks. And it's a lot of times
closed-minded.
Yeah, a lot of times there's, you know, people think of the world as being, you know, sometimes split by religious people and not religious people, like believers and unbelievers. But I think it's split kind of by, like, these attackers and these people that are willing to learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, people that have their opinions and they're closed-minded and open-minded. How about that?
Yes.
So, like, it's a really, you know, sticky situation. I mean, I feel like God, and there's a verse in the Bible that actually says this, but God's the only one that knows your heart and knows your mind. So, like we were saying about the don't judge a book by its cover, any action that someone commits, I have to forgive them. I have to open my heart and open my mind, because if I was in their shoes and, you know, I was abused my entire life, or this just happened to me and it was super heartbreaking, or I have this mental disorder and so I, you know, committed these things that we see as wrong, you know, I wouldn't want to be forgiven. I don't know. Exactly, I don't know how else to say it. I think that there should be compassion for those kind of people, which, you know, sucks because
everyone has a reason for doing something. You know, right? And you know, whether if what they did was bad, the reason for it could be good. You know what I mean? And you know, I think I've talked to you about this quote. But I like this quote that says, "Pain is just a lack of understanding." You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you brought that up.
Yes. So if you know, so if we can understand why somebody did something, we're gonna feel less bad about it. You know what I mean? Let's say, for instance, let's say I broke up with my girlfriend. Obviously, she's going to be sad. You know what I mean? But maybe I broke up with her to protect her for whatever reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to make her feel like crap, but she understands that I did it for her, then it's going to make her feel better. And that's the same thing as pain is a lack of it. If you understand, then you're going to feel less pain, you know?
Mm-hmm. And so I think most actions we commit are with a lack of understanding, because nobody can have, like, a complete understanding of even an entire situation.
Yes.
Yeah, you could be studying an entire situation for your whole life, and then it happens, and it's definitely not going to be perfectly the exact way that you imagined it. Like, So and I feel like there's some controversial issues too that can be put into play here, and I don't want to go too deep into this stuff, but like when Jesus was on the earth, and I don't know where you stand with Jesus, because there's a lot of religious people that believe in Jesus and Christians
Well, Jesus definitely existed. There definitely was a person named Jesus that preached. No one can say that that's not true, because that was true.
All of Christianity came from that.
Yeah. So he had to exist. There's no way he was made up.
It's just whether people believe that he's God or not, and that splits a lot of Christians up too.
Yeah.
Or the Son of God. Yeah. Well, I believe the Son of God is like what he was, but he was like God in the flesh. Like he was a living, breathing God.
Yeah, I like to think he was like a good example. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wonder, you know, because from what I've heard, he's never personally said he was the Son of God. I believe, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's like no documents or like there's no proven documents of him saying he was the Son of God. It was only people around him. You know what I mean?
Pretty sure he said it in the Bible.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, I'm not sure. That's just what I heard. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't know I don't think he said he was God, but he said he was, the Son of God, and he claimed that God was his father.
Yeah, but I mean,
but
technically, doesn't the Bible say we're all children of God? So could he just be saying that, but someone interpreted it as him saying he's the direct Son of God? You know what I mean? It goes back to that too. How did the because back then the church was corrupt, right? I believe that's a fact.
Yeah.
Right. So right. What if they
still corrupt?
Yeah. Well, fair enough. What if he was just saying we're all children of God? I'm a son of God. You're the son of God. But they took it as. But since he was such like a good displayer, a good role model like that, they like told everyone, or they interpreted it as he was the direct son of God himself. You know what I mean? It's weird. That's why it's hard because we don't know what is fact and what is fiction and how to describe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Well, some people believe and interpret the Bible as Jesus was the Messiah, so like the Savior.
Yeah.
And so it's difficult. I mean, I believe that he was.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
I would say I do too. I think so. I don't know. I'm willing to believe he is though, because it makes me feel better.
Yeah. I don't know. I've always believed that he was. But yeah, I believe that the whole Bible is, you can argue the historical reliability and the, reliability as a historical document, but I feel like it's more of a religious thing, more of your own spiritual journey, and God will lead you through it, and you'll just learn, as you go.
Mm-hmm. Everyone has their own relationship with God. People may have similar ones, but there's always something different about each and everybody's personal with it. You know what I mean? You can always pinpoint something that's different from each person.
Yeah, because everyone has completely different relationships. It's really weird. So there's this. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but do you know there was this cult called I'm trying to remember. They were called a cult, but they were in Waco. I believe it's Texas, Waco, Texas.
It's like the big one with the guy.
The Dominions or something, something like that.
Maybe I'm not sure.
But there's this documentary on Netflix, and it's like a whole TV show, and it's not like a documentary, but it's like a retelling of the events, how some of the people that survived claimed that it happened. So basically the story is these people were out in the middle of nowhere, and they were in their like whole house, and they had one person that they believed was closer, like had some sort of divine connection to God that they didn't have. And they all like not worshipped him, but they surrounded him to get closer to God, and then he preached about God. And so I'm not going to say whether that's right or wrong. I don't think it was particularly great, because I don't believe that he was, any closer to God than anyone else. But the whole conspiracy around it was that basically there was a fire that killed all of the people inside.
Oh, wow.
And so the people, so the army, they became a huge thing. The FBI was waiting outside for them to come out, and they didn't really do anything wrong to get the FBI warranted to come out. There was a big gun shootout that happened, but that was because the FBI showed up at their doorstep, because there was allegations against them, and it was tons of them, and then there was a misunderstanding of the first fire, and then they're just waiting outside there trying to get them to send people out. And eventually the place catches on fire, and they call it a mass suicide, but people that were able to make it out of the fire claimed that it wasn't a mass suicide, and it was tear gas that turned into fire.
Oh, wow.
And so it was this whole conspiracy. I just thought that was crazy. Since we're talking about it, I wrote it down.
That's insane, man.
I'm not necessarily saying I believe that it was, because the FBI denied this, but the show gave valid reason for the FBI to deny it, and that's crazy.
Yeah, man, it's crazy stuff like that. And that kind of goes to honesty too, which is somebody would be honest with that, whatever happened. You know what I mean? Obviously someone is being honest, but if everyone would.
It was the Davidians, that's what it was. But I don't see why they would have a reason to lie about it.
Fair enough.
Because they're still loyal to the whole thing. So I do get if they were trying to make the FBI look back. But
the only thing I can think of is if you say that nobody really knew the real reason why the FBI was there, right? Mm-hmm. Or they were just there and they shouldn't have been there. But what if there was a reason the FBI was there, but they couldn't say it for the protection of the people? You know what I mean? and maybe somebody in the Davidians and things that you said knew the real reason why they were there, and then they, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's obviously a bunch of missing information.
Well, it's crazy because the show is based off of a book. The show is based off of a book written by the
survivors.
He wasn't one of the Davidians. He was one of the FBI agents. There was like the guy who talks and doesn't, like, tries to peaceful resolution. I don't know why I can't think of the word right now. What?
Ambassador.
No. But it's whatever. But it was written by one of the FBI agents, and the show was based off of that. It said, at least. So I don't know.
That's interesting. Though.
There was a lot more to it and a lot leading up to it that the show talked about, and it made them look more like the good. It didn't make anyone look like bad guys. It was really just controversial
super
overall.
Neutral.
It just made you feel something.
Just telling the story, telling both sides of the story, and then kind of letting the viewer decide, I guess.
Yeah, it was that kind of thing, and it was really crazy.
It's kind of like what Tiger King is like, apparently, from what I hear.
Tiger King's great, man. Carol Baskin killed her husband.
That's your opinion.
Dead.
No, he definitely fucking killed her husband. I've never actually seen it, so I don't know.
No. It's just a conspiracy that she did. But she didn't deny it in the thing, which was funny. Well, she did, but she didn't have any, like... It was... Yeah. Proof? Everyone in the show was stupid.
Yeah, apparently they're all, like, insane, right?
Oh, yeah. One of them is in jail. The main character.
Yeah, Joe Exotic, whatever his name is.
Yes, sir. Joe Exotic. He makes music.
Apparently, that's not actually his voice, is what I heard recently.
Oh?
Yeah, apparently, like, somebody came out and said that's not even his actual voice. He just hired somebody to sing, and he said it was him.
Oh, in the songs, yeah.
It's a conspiracy.
Probably. And a conspiracy. So another thing I wrote down was visions and what your thought on that was. I feel like, and this, might sound crazy to some people listening, but I do feel like I've, woken up from, a dream, and I remembered it, like, perfectly, and I never remember my dreams. So I wake up from a dream, and I remember it perfectly, and, like, there's just a difference from when you, like, wake up and remember a dream, and, like, oh, that was super weird. I was, chasing this guy down, and then a monkey ate me, like, from, like, a dream where it's like, oh, this totally means something, and I started writing it down, and then it was, like, super detailed, Have you ever had something like that?
Let me pull up my phone real quick. Yeah, I've had have you ever been in a loop to where every night you had the same dream until in the dream something different happened and then you didn't have that dream again?
No, whoa.
So, yeah, I've had something like that happen before, and because I do a lot of research on dreams too, because I've always found them interesting, right? Like, what the fuck is a dream? No one really knows, You know what I mean? But apparently, because a dream is when we go to sleep, our conscious mind rests and our body heals, but then our subconscious mind wakes up, right? And usually our dreams are subconsciously our brain, because our subconscious brain works way differently. So our subconscious brain it's usually our subconscious brain is trying to teach us something, or trying to tell us something, you know what I mean? And it's up to us to interpret it. So I kept having this, I read this book, and I listened to the book. And
you can't read.
Yeah, I listened. God damn it! And then I listened to a podcast with the author, and so she explained a lot about, like, what dreams are and how, like, if you have a dream that you remember, and it's, especially if you're stuck in, like, this loop, you know what I mean? Try to interpret what it means. It could be your subconscious brain telling you something that you need to work on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So one dream, I remember having this dream when I was a kid. Every night, I had it almost every single night, like a lot. I was playing ball with my dad, and then I went to go reach down for the ball, and I'd just fall. And I would just fall in like this hole, like this dark hole, and like as I was falling, I'd look up and I'd see, like, the world up there, almost like it was a giant hole, and I was falling down, like, just kept falling, and, like, never stopped falling, you know what I mean? And as I was falling down, I was falling down this big hole with, like, there's arms coming out the sides of, like, the walls and stuff, and it's like, it's really hot and sweaty, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And finally, like, after, like, a week of still having this dream, I decided when I was falling, I was going to do something about it. I was sick and tired of it. So I reach up, and I reach up to grab one of the arms, and then when I reached to grab the arms, my hand was on the grass. And I stood up, and I picked up the ball, and he was like, throw it back to me. I threw it back, and that was the end of the dream. I woke up and never had a dream like that again, right? So back in, like, last August, I kept having this one dream. I've written down all the notes here, right? And so yeah, I've had dreams like that, and I don't remember exactly. I don't feel like reading this whole thing because it was a pretty long dream. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's good.
But the end of a big part of the dream was every time we tried to sit down and watch this movie, whether it was like in a drive-through or in my living room or on my phone, and every time I tried to watch this movie, something bad would happen. You know what I mean? And a lot of the time, I would just run away from what was happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or something, I would just run away from it. And I think eventually, I decided, this time when I go to sleep, and I set the intention before I fell asleep. If I had this dream again, I'm going to do something different. So I had the dream again, and instead of running away from all these bad things that are happening, I faced it head on. And then when I faced it head on, I solved the issue, and then I got to finish the movie. And I woke up. And I think it was like my subconscious brain telling me I need to stop running away from my problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's what I try to do now. So yeah, I've had visions like that before. So are you saying you think it's like visions from God, do you think? Like maybe these dreams are we having, these visions that we're getting from God are like him telling us we need to fix something? I can see that. I like that.
Yeah. I don't remember as many of my dreams, and I've never had reoccurring dreams like that either.
Oh, see,
but at the same time, I feel like God, and we were talking about free will earlier, I feel like God creates each and every one of us specifically, and he knows the settings that we're going to be in and the people that we're going to be around, so he knows just how much to interfere in our lives, if that makes any sense, Yeah. So, like, maybe God knows, you, and he knows how you interpret it and how I would interpret that, and he knows what I need for this moment in my life and what you need, and so it's very different for each person. That's how I feel like. And so when someone says that we have free will, I do believe that we absolutely have free will, because obviously I can, say whatever I want on this podcast. I can say whatever I want to you right now. But God created us, and he created everything around us and, like, the people that we're going to interact with. And so, like, he didn't Caitlin, I'm going to mention her right now. Shout out to her. One time she put it well, and I believe that God's plan is kind of like God set it up like a movie, like start to finish, and then he just pressed play, and like he's been watching since, like, and interfering where he needs to, and like that's how it
pausing the movie and editing it. It's like he it's like a video. He edited the video, and then like he hits play. If he realizes there's something that he needs to change here, he'll do that. You know what I mean? And then he'll press play again. I get that. That's cool. I like that way of interpreting it.
So it's all interpretation, and it's all our best way of trying to interpret things that are beyond our interpretation. Honestly, that's about how Christianity is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I couldn't imagine not believing in anything. I don't know where I'd.
Yeah, I really liked this thing that you said in one of your spoken word songs. I've talked to you about it many times before, but I don't know if I've said it on the first podcast or not. But I'm gonna say it again. You said something along the lines of, even if like there was proof that God wasn't real, and it came out on the news and websites, Snapchat, everywhere that God wasn't real, you would still choose to believe in God. And I really like that, because that goes to something that I wrote down here, was that even if you don't believe in religion and you want you to choose not to be religious, you should respect it, because whether you believe in it or not, you should understand it's giving somebody a reason to live. It's giving someone a purpose. It's it's giving them something to believe in to get them through day and day. So don't argue with them when they say that they believe in something, because that could be the only reason they make it through every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm with you on that same boat. If proof came out today that God wasn't real, guess what? I'm still reading the Bible. I'm still going to believe it, and I'm still going to use that to believe in to get me through my life. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So if you're not religious and you're atheist or whatever you want to identify as, psychology or Scientology or whatever, respect the religious people, because they're using it to get their life, and that could be all they have. And sure, you may see it as like some kind of delusional story in their head, but they're using it to get through their life. So who's to tell them that that's wrong?
And two things I want to say off this, and I tend to be pretty spastic, so I might forget the second thing by the time I'm finished with the first, but it'll come back to me. Write it down. One of the things that reminds me of is a kind of argument that I like to think about a lot, just with Christianity, is that it's a lot more of a risk to take if there's something out there to not believe than if there isn't something out there to believe. You know what I mean?
Oof,
like if I'm believing and there's nothing, it doesn't really matter what I think. But if there is something and I choose not to believe, then it's a huge penalty for like eternity.
Yeah.
And that goes into I do remember the second thing I was going to say. That goes into and I don't want to really fight for a lot of Christians that might have more radical opinions and more attacking type ways of trying to share Jesus or share God. But I think what it is it's a desperation, because if you really love people and you're really trying to show that love, and as a Christian you kind of believe you have this key to like happiness, like key to like to save somebody, and if you really love people, you want to share that with everything you can. And so some people have different interpretations of how to do that, because if you're trying to share something to somebody that you really, really love, like, if you didn't believe in God and I really do love you, I'm going to do everything I can to share that with you. And even if you deny it, I'm going to keep trying to share it with you, and that's the tough part, is when do you take a step back if this is really life or death and I have, only a certain number of days because I could die tomorrow. Do I do everything I can to give you that happiness and give you that joy and give you to save you, Or do I stop and hold back and just, hope? Because it's a really tough situation.
I know what you mean. I used to be the same way. I tried to get all my friends who didn't believe in God to believe in God, and and it's not just with God. It can be with getting help, whether it's mental help or physical help, whatever you want to say. A lot of the times, I would try so hard, and the harder I try to get them to believe in this or do this to help themselves, it just push them farther away from doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like if you're still struggling with that, then my advice to you would be, you can't help someone who doesn't want help. When they finally realize they need the help and that they want it, they're going to come to you or they're going to find it on their own. So all you can do is educate them and then let them make that decision themselves. Because pushing it on them and forcing it on them, it's just going to make it worse. It's just going to make them farther away from it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
The thing is you're pushing this idea on them, and what happens when you push something? It makes it go farther away. It's the same thing with this. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you can educate them, but don't push it on them. Let them decide themselves.
Yeah, it's not like that with me. I don't push it on people anymore. At least I
didn't think so. But,
Yeah. But it's still, even though it's not like a desperation to like share this with people, it's still like a thing that makes you sad. You know what I mean? Because you don't know how long I don't know how long I'm gonna have, and I don't know how long they're gonna have, and that's the whole point of faith. That's all that faith is, and believing. And it's a tough situation going into this kind of segueing, because it's another thing I wrote down. Having like being a believer and believing in something so strongly, and having friends that don't believe in it. So like within religion and other things too. Just having a very strong, like something you're really passionate about, an opinion you're really passionate about.
Even politics. It's the same way.
No. We don't need to talk about politics.
Like
I'm not a very political person.
Yeah, no, me neither.
But
especially for right now.
Yeah, no, but I have a lot of friends that are different places with religion. I mean, AJ is one of my best friends, and he lives in my house. He lives with me, and he doesn't believe in God at all. And I absolutely understand that. It doesn't, he doesn't feel like God's been there for him at all in his life. And if someone that didn't believe would say, yeah, that's a prime example of God not being real. But AJ is a super strong and intelligent person, and like, I credit all of that to the things that he's been through, and he would credit that to the things he's been through, whether God's real or not. And so like one of my close friends is Zach, and he's a Mormon, and Elvis, who's a Catholic. Like I don't have many Christian friends, and I have you as a Christian friend, but we don't have the same upbringing like at all, so we don't necessarily have the same beliefs either. And not to say that anyone can have the same beliefs, but I don't really growing into in your Christianity and in your beliefs without having a Christian community is kind of difficult. But to anybody that might be doing it, I say just keep pushing forward, and it's not always a bad thing to have friends that are not Christian, because I used to tell myself, I might be the only Christian in their life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if I am, the most I can do, and I try to do this in my music and social media more than I do in person, unless the opportunity is brought up. If the conversation is brought up, then I have no reason not to. Why would I not start talking about God?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to push it on them. We're just talking about it. But otherwise, in my music, I absolutely have reason to also, So I don't try to push it in any way, but I do feel like sometimes it comes off that way, and it's not always bad to have non-Christian friends. Just the way you look at it is the way that it comes to you. And if you're spending time with God and you have somewhat of a support group to yourself, even if they're not the closest people to you, because I know we don't talk every day, and I have people I don't talk to every day, but if I needed to talk about God, I could definitely talk to them, and they'd be there for me, and I'd be there for them.
Back to what you're saying about it's okay to have friends that aren't religious, or vice versa, it's okay to have friends that are religious if you aren't religious. yeah, it's perfectly fine. It goes back to the same thing of interpreting your friend's opinions. Like, your friend's gonna have a different opinion than you are.
Respect.
Friend's gonna believe in something different than you are. You know what I mean? Respect that, and it's fine. It's okay. That's life. You know, if you haven't accepted that, that's how it is. Go ahead, get started soon while you can, because that's how it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a tough situation. And another thing I wanted to talk about, because it is something I'm very, very passionate about, and I know we kind of touched on it, on how context interpretation in the Bible and how homosexuality is argued among people. And the reason I want to talk about it is because something I'm very passionate about is because Liv told me, and Liv's my girlfriend, and she told me that when she went to the Pride Parade and the time that she's been, there were people like Christians there that would scream about not believe, like, you know, you're going to hell for doing this. And it's just, those are the kind of people that I think make the word religion a joke, you know? And
who, like, give it a bad connotation.
Yeah,
who makes other people develop opinions on you before they even know who you are because you're religious.
Yeah, it's like trying to, you know, okay, so like, for example, if you're talking to someone that does drugs and you only have an hour to talk to them, and then they're going to walk out of that room and get hit by a bus, and that's the last they'll ever, you know, they'll be die on impact. Do you spend that hour trying to tell them about God, or do you spend that hour trying to convince them not to do drugs? You know, because you believe drugs are wrong, even though it's highly speculated. And the whole concept of homosexuality being wrong is hard because a lot of people that believe in that are biased, because either they grew up believing one thing, or they're, you know, the only people that I've heard arguing for it are people that grew up with a gay community or gay people around them or are gay themselves. And it's really hard seeing both sides.
Yeah,
and I don't have a strong opinion about it, but
I think at the end of the day, people just need to realize that, you know, someone being, you know, gay or not, like, that's themselves. Like, they're a human. Whether they're gay, straight, bi, pansexual, I don't know all the different, you know, orientations, but,
yeah,
you know, they're still a human, you know? And you would respect a human if they were straight, then you should respect them if they're gay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
if
you don't have to believe in that, but you should still respect them for it. You know what I mean? You shouldn't wish someone hell, or you shouldn't wish that upon them just because of one of their opinions, or however you want to interpret what being gay is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, they're still a human. You know?
I told Liv that I was going to go to the parade with her, and I was going to get a shirt that says, "I'm a Christian and I'm sorry for what we've done to you." Because if you think about it, and this is what makes me even more, you know, I don't want to say angry, but passionate, I suppose, about it, is that these are people that have been denied and kicked out of churches their entire lives. Like, their family members, like, a lot of them, family members have kicked them out of their family.
Yeah.
And they, like, people go around pride parades, you know, parents, and say, "I'm a mother and I will hug you." You know, because they don't have mothers to hug them, because they've been kicked out of their houses. And then, not to mention, already having that horrible belief of what religion is from, you know, horrible experience with religion, then they have to hear those people saying you're going to hell. And
yeah,
it's like...
angry, by the way, is the right word. It pisses me off. It really just it really bothers me, because...
And that's why I say it's like a joke at this point.
Yeah, I can't mention to you how many, like, even gay Christians, or even gay atheists I've met who... are some of the nicest people I know, you know what I mean? Are really understanding, are pretty cool, you know what I mean? And, you know, don't get me wrong, there's some people who aren't understanding that are gay, but it's the same thing. There's some straight people who are understanding, there's some straight people who aren't understanding, there's some gay people that are understanding, there are gay people that aren't. You know, it's just another factor of who we are, and you know what I mean?
It's just another splitting variation, like there's black people that are...
Who gives you the right to judge who someone is, whether you're Christian or not? You know,
exactly.
It's ridiculous, and it really pisses me off. It really does.
And the thing that I is that, you know, like we were talking about, is humanity. We're all humans. We're all equals. Those people that are yelling that are just as equal as those people that are, you know, gay. And if a gay Christian can't get into heaven, you know, they're by definition a Christian can't get into heaven because what they're doing is wrong. Then why would I not be, like, I wouldn't be able to get into heaven, you know, because I do bad things every day.
Yeah, I make mistakes all the time, but I'm still going to heaven. I know that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, and you know, the same people that say you're gay, you're going to hell, are the same people that preach our God's a loving God. Well, you know, to me, a God that is not going to let someone who's gay into heaven, that doesn't sound too loving to me. So it's hard to tell. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you right now, you know, our God is a loving God. He doesn't matter whether you're gay, straight, He doesn't care as long as you're loving and you love him, and he's gonna love you back, and he's gonna let you in to his paradise. You know what I mean? It's dumb. It's hypocritical. If that's what I believe.
I believe if you believe in God, you should just pray to Him and ask Him to pull you closer to Him and show you what you need to know to get into heaven. I believe that there's I believe that if you believe in God and you believe in Jesus, and it's about where your heart and your mind lies, like we've talked about before. Because if you're doing awful things out of complete ignorance, but you're denying the truth, like you turn your back to the truth, that's different than if you haven't been presented with it. And then if you're presented with it and you have you can have the humbleness to say, "Oh God, I was wrong." And even if you have to spend the rest of your life in prison for whatever you did, you spend that time saying, "God, please forgive me. I was wrong. I know what I did now." And you reading your Bible and spending to Him, like that's a completely different thing, I think.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And even if no human being on your heart is really truly seeking Him and wanting to understand Him and wanting to go towards Him.
Yeah, for anyone who feels like they messed up or anything like that, just know if you really feel that, I'll tell you, first of all, there will be people who will forgive you. Yeah. But if you really feel that no one's going to forgive you,
and I want to share this lyric, I have it here, that I wrote.
You're never alone if you have God.
In one of my songs that hasn't come out yet, but it addresses the pride issue. And it's about this kid who just came out to his parents, and it said, decided to go to Pride to celebrate when he saw his parents screaming out hate. You're going to hell, they screamed. What a shame, because before that day, he believed in God. And then it cuts out. And it's like,
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy is, you can have these Christian parents who love their kid their whole life. They can, you have Christian parents who will love their kid until they're 16, find out they're gay when they're 16, and then all of a sudden not love them anymore. It's like, no, you've loved them when he was gay. There's this kind of situation. You still do. You can't, even if you say you don't, you still do. Sorry, bud.
In Catholic Church, and I don't want to call that any kind of church, but I know that Catholic Church, at least, maybe there's other, denominations, believe in mortal sin, which is, mistakes that are higher than any other mistake, like killing somebody or, doing something like that. But that's not in the Bible. It's, and there's a lot of Pope writings that are still followed that were written back in those times that we're talking about that were corrupt. And so that's why it's really hard to, and I really don't want to call anybody out. And if you can explain it better to me, please do. And I'm not trying to say Catholicism in general, because I know a lot of Catholic churches that aren't like this, and they are good, and they do follow the Bible very strongly. Yeah. Exactly.
Even the word Catholic.
Exactly, and that's so many words related to God are stigmatized. And I just want you to have a relationship with God. You don't need to have a relationship with Christians, or at least the Christians that we're talking about.
Yeah, you don't have to have a relationship with,
or at least the church in a general statement. A church can be like you and your Christian friends, studying God and believing in that together, and coming to know that and sharing ideas and throwing them off each other together and learning together. That's almost better than going to a church where this corruption can come in, if you have a group of your close friends that you can hold each other accountable. Because accountability, especially when churches grow bigger, can get really hard to find. And I'm not saying there's not mega churches that aren't good, because I know a lot that are really inspiring, because the people in charge truly do have God in their hearts, and they probably make mistakes, but they haven't made a well, yeah, but I mean, they haven't made one big enough yet to have a big scene made about it. Which people have done that before and have had big scenes made about it. There's what they call televangelists, which are evangelists and try to share God, but they're super famous on television and they make all this money, and there's all these conspiracies. Not conspiracies, they get into a lot of trouble for doing bad things. How long have we been going for?
We've been going for around an hour. We're getting there.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I got some stuff I want to say. I'm just saying, like what else you got written down? Because we've been talking about that topic for a while.
The only thing I've gotten written down that I didn't really talk about was being a Christian artist and being a Christian creator. Like? It's difficult. I always talk about the same kind of stuff, and I feel like I got to get out of that box. And also, it's like, how often should I talk about, if I'm trying to devote my what I'm creating to God? It's a big question that I ask myself all the time, is how often do I talk about that, and how often do I talk about other things in my life? Or should I just always be talking about other things in my life And
I think you should just talk about whatever you want to talk about. Don't feel like you need to talk about God enough, and don't feel like you need to talk about God this much and talk about your life this much and then talk about your feelings this much. I mean, you just need to talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, for any of you guys who have heard about NF, he has this really cool quote where he doesn't like being called a Christian rapper because he said if I'm a plumber and I'm Christian, do you call me a Christian plumber? Nah, you just call me a plumber. It's the same thing with Christian artists,
Right.
You're an artist, right?
Right.
You shouldn't feel like you need to talk about Jesus 24/7. You should talk about whatever you want to talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From a marketing standpoint, if you feel like you need to talk, you need to attack that niche. I mean, go for it. But for me, I think you should just, or coming from me, I think you just need to talk about whatever you want to talk about, and you need to stop worrying about what box you're in and getting out of the box that you're in. You know what I mean? Just talk about whatever you want to talk about. People can interpret your feelings and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think what more is happening is what you're saying, but it's like, I think a lot of the times I do want to talk about God, and then I think I'm putting myself in that box, And so it is a lot of worry that I put on myself, and that. We talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
But, oh yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
But, yeah. No, but, so I don't know if I'm necessarily putting myself in a box or trying to get out of the box. Like, the box is that I'm talking about God all the time, but I don't necessarily need to get out of the box. It's just that it's hard to keep people interested, if that makes sense. Like, I like sharing my ideas about my beliefs and what I believe just with anything, and I go further than God sometimes too. But, people don't always, want to listen, and when I make it for other people, which we've talked about a lot, is if you're trying to serve people with something that you're creating and, people don't care, then it creates this, anxiousness, and it creates an insecurity. And, I've got my own beliefs about insecurity, but, like, I just think it's something that I put a lot of thought into, and I'm really passionate about. But it's definitely really hard to balance that, or trying to balance it, or overthinking it and not balance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. You know what I want to talk about?
What's up?
We touched on it a little bit in the beginning, but I want to talk about different religions. Whether it's, and I'm not talking about just the different types of Christianity, but more of like how I just dropped my notes. How like Jewish people, or how the Jewish religion and Christian religion and Arabic and Hindu and all these different, and Buddhist, and all these people are how all of those religions are related. And I feel like it sucks to for me to think about that we all always attack each other, like all these different religions like are constantly arguing and stuff, when in reality they're not. We're not much different from each other. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on one second, I'm gonna pick this up. But we're not that much different from each other. We all share pretty similar beliefs. Be a good person. At the core of every religion, or even maybe not even at the core, but somewhere in every religion it talks about being a good person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like finding ways to be the best person you can be.
And I think that do you agree with that? I feel like that's a serious. No, that's for real. You know what I mean? Like we all everybody wants to be a good person. You know what I mean? And I think that we need to stop fighting and realize that we have a lot in common and maybe figure it out.
I feel like it's all definitely interpretation and what you're exposed to, and the way, and we were talking about, I don't know if we're talking about this in the last podcast or just in our own personal talks, but how we talk to ourselves more than we talk to other people. I feel like that shapes the way that how we talk to ourselves, because if you're always putting yourself down, that shapes the way that you interpret things. And then the way you interpret things is going to shape things like how you whether you're appealed more to this religion or that religion. But I feel like all religions are a way of explaining, the world as we know it, things we don't understand.
Yeah. 100%. And I just feel like it just sucks to me that all of us are as us, or by us I mean like religions, like all we do is argue. Like we're all the same.
Yeah.
We all came from the same boat. And we're all people. We're all humans. We're really similar. So just remember that. Like when you attack religion, just remember your religion. Or when you attack a religion, remember your religion itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when a religion attacks another religion, it's a religion itself. If that makes any sense. Like, you know, we're all similar. Let's find what we have in common and let's embrace that instead of arguing over things that we don't agree with on each other. You know.
And I do want to open up different perspective, and I've already said this before, but like not that I don't agree with this, and I'm not this kind of person either, but I feel like the reason for a lot of people attacking other religions is wanting to share it but not knowing how to. You know, believing I'm right and this is life or death, and I want you to know this. But the only way I know how to is to force you or to yell at you. You know, like I don't know how to share my opinion any other way. Yeah, exactly. And so and then people get defensive, and then it becomes an argument, and that's people don't know how to talk to each other, and that all has to do with
people
the way
don't know how to
are
have a
raised.
conversation.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah,
and
simply. Like if you can have a conversation, you can figure anything out.
Yeah, and it's really hard because people, you know, spend their entire lives. Most people spend their entire lives with, you know, specific things, and we have our own beliefs about certain religions. We have our own beliefs about their beliefs. You know, like I haven't researched Islam, and I don't know their belief system. I don't know the Hindu belief system, except for what I've learned in like history class. You know, but and you know how it came to be, and like a short test to go with it, and then move on. Like I haven't done my own research about it, so for me to think about it from my own box, with like my own Christian box that I'm in over here, it's very I don't want to say closed-minded. Like it's not like I'm not willing to, but I just never have.
It's like I feel like a lot of these arguments cause because they don't know anything about the other religion. You know, for instance, like if you got, you know, hypothetically, if you got into an argument with an Islam, that's dumb because you don't know anything about the Islam religion. You know what I mean?
And if you
that's why us as people need to learn how to have a conversation. That way we can learn. Because you know, if we can listen to them and have a conversation, we can learn about the religion, and then we can have a discussion about it, and then we can, you know what I mean? But sometimes a lot of times the arguments start because you start making accusations before you even know their standpoint. You know what I mean? Or before you even know what that religion is, and that's what needs to be fixed.
I think it would be. And it makes you wonder, is the people that are, like, wisest, if the people that are wisest are the people that have, like, you know, a Christian and a monk that sat down and had a serious conversation for, like, you know, 3 hours, then realize that there's a lot more to this world that, you know, we don't understand, and in our ignorance we fight and we argue, and, you know, in our lack of understanding we get angry, like you say all the time.
Yeah, seriously.
Honestly, I mean, it's the human way.
I mean, I'm pretty sure we hit everything I wanted to talk about. Like, this is a strong podcast. I think
it has
been. You know, I hope that if you were listening, you found something from what we were talking about, and you either agree with us or disagree with us, but you still learned something. You know?
Yeah, I hope that. Yeah, he said it perfectly.
All right, I want to ask you something a little wacky. And we talked about this a little bit before we started, but I want to ask you something a little wacky, okay?
All right.
Have you heard the theories that certain drugs, especially psychedelics, are the beginning of religions?
Would you say the beginning of religions?
Or like the start, or what started? Or like
I've heard that certain drugs like open your eyes to religions, or open your eyes to a world that we as humans, like a real world, instead of just, you know, totally make you freak out. They're actually helping you see things that are real, but we don't know they're real, like, because we've been choosing to believe they're not.
I feel like when you say it like that, it makes it sound really psychedelic-y, like almost like Matrix-y, but I feel like it's more of not you're seeing things that, or you're not seeing you're seeing what's actually real. It's more of you're noticing something that's always been there. You know what I mean? And I can totally see how that's how like certain religions started, was somebody took some kind of psychedelic or drug, or, you know, they got stoned, and all of a sudden, because they're so stoned, they noticed something that they never noticed before. Oh my God, these dreams I've been having, or oh my God, that thing that I saw was God, or the creator. You know what I mean? Or so the person in charge, you know?
Yeah. But and then it leads to a whole nother thing, and it is crazy too. And I mean, there's hundreds of religions. So like, I don't mean to throw a bone at your theory, because I absolutely believe that that's something out there. Some religions out there were created in that kind of way, or with something like that. But it's crazy to think if someone did that and saw something that wasn't real, but then also made a religion out of it. Like, I don't, just looking at it from the other way,
but also you can think about it like, if someone gets like stoned or high or whatever, whether it's a psychedelic or not, they could see. Everyone could, like, what if, like, we're all seeing, or not we all, but, like, what if they saw the same thing, but, again, they went back to interpreting it differently, and that's how these different religions were created, how, like, a lot of religions are different, but same at the same time. They all saw something that said, okay, I'm the creator, and you need to be a good person, but they took it as, okay, that's Jesus, he's the son of God, and then the other person took it as, okay, he's the Buddhist, you know what I mean? Like, so that's how I see it, kind of. It's like, what if, like, okay, they all, like, saw or noticed the same thing, but created a different story from it, you know what I mean? It's like ink blocks. Like, everyone look at ink blocks, and they see different things in them, you know what I mean? Or cloud watching. It's the same cloud. Everyone's looking at the same cloud, but some person might see a duck, other person might see a rabbit,
Ooh, the duck rabbit. It's kind of like the and with all of that, it's kind of like the tightrope theory, where it could, it's all belief. It could go either way, and we'll never know.
Yeah, 100%.
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's something that you could just spend hours thinking about, but like, as human beings, we could only ever contemplate those things,
Yeah, 100%.
So it's
I feel like I think it's cool. The one thing I think is really cool about religion is that if you really think about it, or like, depending on what you believe in, you'll only ever know the truth when you're not on Earth anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we'll only ever know what's the truth when we're gone. That's what's crazy to me. Which is, I kind of like it though,
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be insane. But I think, I don't know. Back to what I was saying before, I think not believing in anything, or at least not doing your research, is a lot more risky than,
Yeah. Okay,
sitting in ignorance.
Let's think about the pros and cons, okay? There's no proof that God is real, and there's no proof that God's not real.
Right.
So let's look at the pros and cons. You believe in it. Okay, you have something to believe in, so that makes you feel better. And if the world ends and there is a God, you're saved. You know what I mean?
And it also makes you a better person.
And if you don't believe in it,
do it right.
Make you do the right thing, make you a better person, make you happier. You know what I mean? And if you choose to decide or choose to go with the path of, okay, there's no proof that he is real, so he's not real. Sure, you're right. That's it. That's all you have going for you. All the cons are you're not
he's not real. Yeah.
Oh, I was right, but I was a bad person my whole life, and now I'm gonna sit here in the void of blackness because I'm dead. But if there was a God, then I'm in hell now.
That's insane. Yeah.
So choose your poison. I'm going with the one where I'm fucking going to heaven no matter what. You know what I mean?
And there's a whole nother thing, the idea of purgatory, which is a Catholic belief as well, and maybe other religions. But it's like you pay off your sins there. Like, for some people, if they commit like a mortal sin or too bad, they go straight to hell. But like, if you just committed, you lied a couple times and cheated and made lots of mistakes, then you go to purgatory and you suffer, but only until you've paid off those sins. Then you go to heaven.
Wow, I never knew that. That's really cool, actually.
Yeah, and it's not. I'm not saying I believe in it, but that's just something people believe in. It's another perspective on it.
Yeah, that's cool. I've never heard of that before. I didn't know that was like a Catholic belief, and I grew up in Catholic schools. That's crazy.
And it does suck, because like, just history though, there were people that would like, if you pay for this thing, then you can cut some time off of your time in purgatory, and that's how there were some Catholics that were corrupt like that long time ago.
Oh yeah, like pay money or something.
You pay for, and you buy like a tithe or pay money to the church, and
people are terrible.
And that's just like stuff I learned in history class. So don't get mad at me. Get mad at my history teacher.
History teacher's watching this. He's gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
Mr. Minster's the best.
I just broke my sticky note. Sorry.
I think it's done.
I think we touched on everything. I like that. That was a good one.
It was a good one, man. Would you like to tell everybody what time it is?
It is currently...
It's 1:45.
It's 1:49 a.m.
Yep.
I'm actually extremely tired. Yeah, that was a good podcast.
It was
guys.
a good podcast, though.
Cut that out. Just cut this part out, please, God. Just do the outro for fuck's sake.
No, I'm not cutting that out.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been a lot of fun. We touched on some really sensitive things. I hope nobody got offended, of course. Share your opinion in the comments or our DMs. Most people... What?
Somebody's going to get offended.
Yeah, of course. But no, if you...
Please comment. Don't DM me. Comment. I like having discussions publicly. Please. Comment. Definitely not so we get exposure or anything. Comment.
Okay, well, you can DM me, alright? No, I didn't mean it like that. Thanks so much for listening. It's been great. It's been fun. We'll try to get back on a weekly basis if we can here, but we're having...
That was a dig at me. That was definitely a dig at me.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. No. We gotta end this podcast, man.
It was a dig at me.
Alright. For the third time. Thanks so much for listening. You guys are great.
Check us out on YouTube and SoundCloud.
Yeah, Wannabes podcast.
Possession on like Wannabes,
comma,
like, not plural, not plural. Possession.
Apostrophe?
Did you say comma apostrophe?
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening to a Wannabes podcast. Hopefully you'll check us out on Spotify. Bye guys. Goodbye.